Hi, Sabrina. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So good to have you in here and talk with you. Thank you for doing this. Actually, I have wanted to interview you for a long time because I'm curious about you, because I'm always like the client, and I want to know a little bit better your story actually today. So I'm really curious to hear your story, how you ended up doing what you're doing here, because you're so passionate about this. You like total goddess for me. And but first of all, can you please introduce yourself and tell the listeners, like, what do you do?
Okay, great, I will. And I'm already feeling the yawns coming, so I just want to say I'm not falling asleep. Just to explain, this is just a thing that happens to many of us actually, but for me this is my way of my body saying that whatever, energy's flowing, we're in alignment, stuff is happening, activations are happening just by us being together right now. So there is that. So I am Sabrina. Introductions are so funny because it's always like, where do I even start? But anyway, let's start with the earthly things. I'm half Italian, half American. I grew up in Italy and I live in the UK, and I'm a psychologist. I'm a counseling psychologist. That's my sort of professional background. And then I got into energy work and I started integrating all of that in. And then I got the call to become a shaman, and I'm a shamanic healer, and I just put these things together, basically. And my specialty has always been mental health, has always been helping people with trauma. And it's become clearer and clearer over the years that the clients that come to me are people that also are a version of me in that, and this links probably with what we'll talk about later as well, but very much they're people who often have physical health, but not necessarily, but some kind of physical health issues or imbalances or symptoms, or are very sensitive. They think that's a problem, but actually I'm here to help them see it's their superpower. And intuitives that really want to step into their full power. And so I help people clear what's in the way of that. That's where my work has clearly brought me to and landed me in. And yeah, I do a lot of grid work as well for the planet, and I'm going deeper into that at the moment. That's this 2020 year has been me discovering that and realizing that I've been doing that my whole life without knowing I was doing that, but actually owning it now and exploring that more. And so I'm very passionate about where we're going as humanity and as a collective. So as much as my work has always been focused more on one-to-one and small groups, I'm also realizing that I have a part to play in the whole big story, the collective of the new earth that we're stepping into. And that's been very exciting to feel that. And that's given me a whole new drive about what we're here to do or undo.
So it's going to be like your next phase. I feel like that's going to be your next phase, to reach out to a little bit more people and help people in different ways.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And already this human introduction of yours, it's like you're talking about activations and you're talking about grit work. What are they?
God knows.
Yeah, and you're talking about your yearning, what's going on? What do you mean that you are getting, activations? And if you just like explain, like, what does it mean, these energies coming in and out? How do you feel and how do you experience them yourself?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually, because it is about experiencing rather than believing or thinking. And it's through the experiencing that a knowing comes in, but it's not an intellectual knowing. So, I don't know if I can cognitively exactly explain it yet, but I know that I'm feeling it, and I know that I get immediate feedback from my body when I'm working in this way with myself and with other people. So that's always been my way of knowing first and foremost, which is probably why it was through the body that I woke up through, feeling things in the body. So I think a lot of people that come to me are people that are trying to understand that more. They're coming for healing, but actually the body has hidden messages that is here to serve us, not to torture us. So I've already forgotten the original question. Oh yeah, the grid work. So what do I mean by that? Well, what I've come to understand more and more, so I've been working very much until now with the emotion and trauma level of things, and I've been working with it energetically for sure. So if we think about it like a bit like the internet, it's invisible, but we all use it. So there's like a matrix of information that we can access energetically. It's a bit like going into a cosmic computer and moving things around, right? And then putting things in the trash bin, but then realizing it's still in the trash bin or whatever it's called. I think that's what my Apple calls it, my Apple computer. And then actually realizing there's more to it than that, and that there's like energetic structures holding this in place. So this year I was getting all this kind of channeled information while I was journaling around false grids and false matrix grids, which I'd never even heard that term before. And then all of a sudden I started seeing it in other places too. So that was kind of confirmation of the information coming in for me, that it wasn't just coming from me or through me. And it just feels like there's been an overlay. There's been an overlay, like a veil, like a false information overlay that has kept us stuck in lack, in suffering, in karmic loops going round in circles.
You're talking about the old world, the world that we're still living, like people are talking about 3D world and 5D world, right? And that we are in the transition right now, and you started seeing more about the what's behind it, like I call it like curtain, because I feel like there's invisible curtain, and then you can really access curtain, and you access the knowledge and the information that is like something you cannot really explain.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, completely. And I have goosebumps as you're
I'm getting goosebumps as well. And of course, Matrix, the movie, it explains a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good, that totally woke a lot of us up, that movie, that information.
Oh my God, I love the movie. I still love the movie. It's amazing movie. And okay, so you have this, what do you call it, skill or ability, or how did you, but you have practiced this, you have trained yourself to do this kind of a work and understand. So you have opened yourself up and probably work with your own intuition in some point. So can we go back and back and back into your own story? Because I know like many people, I'm getting constant goosebumps here, many people want to know more and become more aware, because the people are waking up, as you know. And I've been waking up a lot, as you know, because we've been working together and growing and understanding myself and my body so much better. But people are craving more information, and this is why I want to do this. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this interview, because the people want to understand, how can I work with my intuition? How can I develop my intuition? These are the questions my clients are asking for me. And I have practiced my intuition as well. But, let's dive into your story, because stories are lovely and telling it, and it's personal and it's interesting. How did you end up doing this kind of a work and having this amazing awareness and connections with the collective?
Thank you for asking the question. I really love how you asked that, because that is actually the key for me. That's been my story. When we think, how do I find something, how do I find my gifts or my intuition or whatever, as if it's something to look for out there, and the answers are already within. And just like I have gifts, we all have gifts. Like there's nothing special or different about me. We all are special and different in that sense. And so it's just about, first of all, the fact that we're even asking is part of that part of us that's ready to hear that from ourselves. And so the most important way for me has always been to just follow my own process. So my own triggers. So when I am triggered, when I have been triggered, that has been usually my biggest lesson, and the portway, that's not even a word, the doorway, languages, to other dimensions eventually down the line. So trusting wherever we are at any given time. So for me, my journey, well, it started many lifetimes ago. I've been doing this, I realize now, for many lifetimes, but in terms of becoming aware in this lifetime, when I was 17, I became very ill, literally overnight. So on like 2 weeks after my 17th birthday, my whole body collapsed and fell apart. And I was in agony of pain, my whole body. I couldn't move, I couldn't walk. It seemed to come out of the blue. Now, in hindsight, it wasn't out of the blue, but that's how it felt. And I was diagnosed eventually with fibromyalgia and most likely chronic fatigue, but it was the early days when nobody really knew about that anyway. So nobody certainly knew what to do about it. And the illness is, right? You have to just
be ill, you know, until it goes away on its own, right?
Well, I was told it would never go away. So a 17-year-old was told by a rheumatologist that I would never become healthy like I was. So that was like, it took me years to unhook from that belief, basically. And I remember feeling very depressed, but also at the same time determined that, well, this wasn't going to be my reality. So I realized now it was my initiation, it was my shamanic initiation, and anyone who is a shaman, a healer, a conduit of some kind for spirit on this planet often has some kind of initiation based in suffering. And certainly shamans in the old traditions always have had this. They become ill, they're on their own in the jungle, and they have to figure out how to heal themselves, and then they become recognized as a shaman by the village through that. But the spirits choose the shaman and say, okay, this is your lesson, go with it. So that happened. Nobody could help me in the allopathic medicine world, so I was on my own. And so basically I just went on this search trying to heal. And so everything along the way, I was searching and trying for myself. So I was my best case study. And so
I still relate to this with my own illnesses and my own obstacles that you know about, like
I know it's so hard. And I want to say something to this, that the times when this happened to me in history, the energies were not what they are now. So now things are much faster and people can get to where I've gotten to in much less time. So I do want to say that it doesn't have to be the way it was for me, but it was perfect the way it was for me.
Then. But you went on a search, so you started seeking because there was something in you that kind of said to you, like, this can't be the thing. You questioned the whole thing. I'm not accepting this, right?
Yes.
So you had that kind of a desire in you that I need to do something. I'm not believing what they said. It's like a stamp in you when the doctors are saying that, okay, this is the thing. I've heard it as well, and I think many of our listeners have heard it as well. Like, this is going to be you the rest of your life. And it's either we can choose that to believe in it or start questioning things. And this is how we start creating the change, right?
Totally.
So you went on your journey. What happened then?
Having goosebumps on that. So I ended up training as a psychologist while I was still ill, even though I was a lot better than I had been, but I was just managing. So at that point, I was probably spending 2 hours a day managing the consequences of being out there in the world. And I didn't know anything at that point about energy and how I was using my energy and what was happening, and as an empath absorbing everything, I didn't have a clue that that's what I was doing, right? So because the first stage of everything I did, which I think a lot of people do, was doing things like supplementation or, Chinese medicine or homeopathy, all these kind of things, but none of it was really doing anything.
Oh, okay.
So it was helping me survive. It was helping me manage. Body work helped me massively manage. But I was still effectively in a lot of pain and exhausted. Okay. But I was kind of like determined I was going to keep going and live my life anyway. So there is the element of, and mindfulness meditation was very supportive of that. So there was the element of just acceptance, which actually is a very important part of the journey.
Yes.
It was like, even if this is my life, I'm still going to live it, which I do think this is very, very important.
Yes.
And at the same time, so not waiting to live our dream when we're well, because otherwise we're never going to fucking live it. And at the same time, I knew there was more. It was like, there's no way this is it. There's no way I'm just managing. Like, even in my counseling psychology training, when we're learning how to help people so much, it was still like, all the most you can hope for is ordinary unhappiness, is what Freud basically had said. So I was like, well, surely there's got to be more than that. So, and so I found energy psychology, I think in my second year after being qualified as a psychologist. So I was working in the NHS in mental health, and I went to a conference where I met my amazing mentor, Phil Mullen, who turns out to be the biggest name in the UK on energy psychology and was the head of the international organization. And so, like, the best possible mentor I could have crossed paths with, and a very humble man. And I went up to him and I was like, he did a demo where he was tapping and he was muscle testing. And this was me working in a completely different field and world of just talking therapy and mental health. So I saw this guy do this and I was like, I need to do this. So I went up to him, I was like, I need to learn what you do. And he was like, well, if you organize a training, I'll show up, but I'm not going to organize it. It's up to you. So at that conference, I organized the training. I got it paid for and funded by the NHS, and I got it to happen. And so I went to his training and my life was never the same again. And I'm eternally grateful to Phil. And I know now that we've had many lifetimes and, you know, it was all meant to be anyway. So that was huge.
I need to ask a couple of questions before we move forward. Acceptance, because I'm super curious about the acceptance. You said the acceptance, because acceptance doesn't come until you do what?
Into what you do?
Because the people are usually resisting. I cannot change, you know, it's not, they are resisting, and you know, when we have the resistance, you know, the forces are kind of coming back and nothing can change. So what needs to happen that you were able to surrender and accept your illness? What happened to you after that?
Oh, after that, or in order for that?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I think what happened is the flow of life flowed through me. So the universe has your back at every corner if you let it. So when you surrender and you accept, so you're no longer trying to fix it, then life shows up, and through people, life shows up to show you the way. So Phil was just one of the people that showed me the way.
Yeah, because I think for me, it's clear that you accepted, you surrendered, and then things happen.
Yes,
To happen.
This is the paradox. This is the paradox that our egos can't understand and never will, and that's okay. So it's important to accept that too, which is this polarity between acceptance and change, between validation, love, and transformation. We need to be heard, validated, allowed, and accepted exactly as we are. And then that's like the cocoon, that's where the butterfly comes out of. The butterfly doesn't come from making the butterfly happen. The butterfly comes from just allowing complete death and surrender in each moment. And this is a lifelong journey. It's not like I got it then and was enlightened, that's the end of the story. Absolutely bloody not. I mean, it's an ongoing deepening. But meditation, mindfulness meditation was a crucial part, I realize now, of that. But I didn't know that.
But you were called into it, you know, the silence, the turning inwards, and you know,
just noticing, just becoming the observer.
And
of course, now in hindsight, I can see how everything taught me something so important, like being able to feel the things I did in my body helps me be there for clients in a way that otherwise I couldn't. And so when you're going through the most unimaginable stuff that's so painful, somewhere I really do believe now, like even with clients that I work with, like some clients heal in a few sessions, some clients need years. And it's like holding space for the process of whatever it is and trusting each person's unique path of what it's there to teach us. Like the issue will keep showing up until we have learned everything we need to from it. And it's not something to be gotten rid of. It's something to deeply honor.
It's funny because I keep thinking of when acceptance can happen, because I totally agree with that, and surrendering, you know, what needs to happen in us that we can finally let go and accept. Because this works with any situation, with any problem, right? It's like you can see that everywhere, because it always requires acceptance, surrendering, that any issue or problem can go away and move forward.
Yes.
I'm not sure if we have an answer to that question, because it's like it's an instant invisible shift.
Yeah, I feel like it's just one of those things. It's almost like when you get deep enough into the deep barrel of your suffering, then it's like there comes a time when you have no choice
except to accept,
but to rest there.
At
the deepest bottom of your dark night of the soul or whatever. So there's something very sacred about hopelessness.
Yes.
And we have demonized it in this society, in this Western world. We have demonized it. We want to be happy and positive all the time. That is a trap.
Yeah. I remember because I saw you writing on your Facebook page a couple of weeks ago, something that really spoke to me. I was like, hallelujah. Because you said, you know, when we are thriving and striving happiness as well, that's focusing on lack, right? As you said, like ordinary unhappiness, you mentioned that as well just before we just what you said, like ordinary unhappiness. I think that's brilliantly said. And but you know, accepting everything that is, accepting the process, it's so damn hard.
It's so damn hard. It's so damn hard, and it's really important to know that that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's part of our nature to resist that, and that is also okay.
Yeah.
So to not resist resistance, it's like, it's just part of the process.
Yeah.
And that's where actually my primary meditation practice, even though I don't sit and meditate in that way anymore, I haven't done that for years, it's just part and parcel of my beingness. But that is really helpful, just to keep remembering that, just to be the observer, just to be the observer of everything, the observer of the striving part, the observer of the accepting part, the observer of the resisting part, the observer of the suffering part, the observer of the joyful part, and just be the loving parent to all of these parts. None of them are wrong or right or bad or good. They just are. And I feel like that's what we're being called more and more to do, is to learn and embrace, to love and embrace all of these parts of us.
Yes.
And that's how humanity is ascending, actually.
Yeah, I completely agree and feel the same. You know, that's what I felt like and learned through my own processes. And just like in last couple of years, I feel like accepting myself as I am, in good and bad, you know, everything that there is, it's so important. But being the observer, I talk about it as well. And I just realized when you talk about it as well, can you explain, like, what does it mean to be the observer? Because I think like many people don't even know, what does it mean to be an observer, you know, when I started meditating and going inwards and turning inwards, I was like, who's talking? You know, is it my mind? Is it my ego? Is it my higher self? It felt like is it, you know, my shadows, the different people, the roles that I have. And, you know, it was hard for me to kind of define, like, how do I observe all this? And of course I heard and listened, but, you know, I was like, which one to listen, which one to follow. And it can be difficult for many who are actually now starting to recognize the voice of their minds and egos better, because that's what's happening right now. But that was hard for me, like when I got into it at first. So I was like, what's going on in here?
Yeah, I totally hear you on that. And I think when I was first learning, you know, mindfulness, it was a cognitive thing, in the sense of me just saying to myself, oh, I'm noticing anger, or I'm noticing this feeling arising, or I'm noticing this tension in my stomach. But then I think over time, and this is where the energy work and the healing work is actually very important, because there's stuff in our energetic fields that can get in the way, that block our channel. And so this is where just practicing meditation wasn't enough for me personally, and the clearing of the energetics of all the different layers of the energetic field makes all of this much easier. So there is that to be said. And then what happens is the more and more of the shedding of the layers of what we are not, of those limiting beliefs that are held in the energetic field, literally as like a density, so that density can dissolve. And as that dissolves, the observer becomes more and more present. And what I feel it is more and more, it's love. It's pure consciousness. It's pure love. It's not a voice. It's all the voices are actually just chatters of these conditioned parts of us, and that is okay. We don't want to get rid of them. What we're getting rid of, if we want to use that word, or releasing, is the density that's been built around that these parts have been holding on to. So when you're releasing that density, it's like freeing up a blocked pipe. Yeah. And so the water can flow. So you don't have to make the water flow, you're making space. And then pure consciousness, that water can flow through you and occupy more and more spaces within and hold you while you are on your journey of noticing stuff, noticing getting triggered, noticing this is happening, noticing that is happening on the outside, on the inside, this emotion, this thought, this thing happening in the outside world that you don't want, for example. And I feel the more of the shredding of the density, the more we're becoming who we really are, right? This pure presence, this pure love. And that holds us. It's like holding, not like this, not like this, but like this, and just holding in love and witnessing everything that's happening without having to blame, judge, attach expectation.
Acceptance is again.
Yeah. And it's not something you're trying to do. It's always there to come back to. It's almost like you go off on your journeys, following the chitter chatters of whatever, and getting curious of, oh, what's that part showing up, and what does that part need from me, and what healing does she need, and what trauma is there? Oh, something from age 6 that needs releasing. Okay, then that part can rest again and come back and rest in the spaciousness that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and embraces us more and more and more, and then goes off on you go off on a wild goose chase again, and you think, oh, happiness is over there somewhere, let me go and find it. And then you release the density that triggers. The disappointment that gets triggered is a sign to come back. Resting in what you were all along, what you had all along, and realizing again at a deeper level, oh, I always had what I needed. I am already what I need. And then another layer shows up. And it's like, that's at least been my personal journey. Doesn't have to be that way, but it might be that way for someone listening. And so it might be helpful to hear that, to know that your way is perfect as it is, that you already have everything you need, and yet it's okay to forget that, because that's part of the process, and the forgetting is a sign to where the density just needs love.
That's beautiful. I really love that, explanation, because I felt like when I was listening to you, I was like, how do I observe myself? I feel like I'm setting myself aside. It's like a stepping somehow outside of myself, but listening to my body really carefully, what's going on, because I'm so sensitive and picking up the things so easily. But so kind of I'm seeing the things like watching a theater show or something, like on the scene, what's happening. That's observing how I behave, how I feel, how the energy feels inside, what's going on in my body. It's interesting that it's so kind of an automatic process that I haven't even thought about it.
Yeah, so it sounds like that part of you is growing, is more and more present, or you're more and more present.
Totally.
I mean, it was always there, you're just with it.
Yes. So what happened when you encountered an energy psychology, started and did this wonderful workshop with your mentor?
So I went on.
What happened after that?
So after that, I was a complete energy psychology geek, and I every day would sit in my garden. I see this, I'm sitting in my garden, because it must have been, the training was in the autumn, but I just remember sitting in my garden, so it must have been spring, summer, and I just started clearing every possible trauma that I could think of that would come up. I would be muscle testing, because I learned muscle testing from him, and tapping and chakra clearing, so that's what I was doing. And then I was going to work, and my clients had all these trauma, a lot of sexual abuse traumas, things that nobody had ever been able to help them with it. And so I offered them this option. They were like, yeah, let's try. I've got nothing to lose. And so I started having incredible results of people like clearing traumas, no longer having flashbacks, no longer having PTSD symptoms from doing this work. People with very severe trauma. And I was like, holy shit, like, okay, this is clearly something important here. So I just kept working with this. And then I woke up one day, I can't tell you how many years it was after that, 1 or 2 years, I don't remember. I woke up one day and a voice said in my head, you have to become a shaman. And I didn't even know what that was. I literally went and Googled it.
Interesting.
This is like a modern initiation method. So I Googled shaman, and I found someone where I lived, and I went to her and I had a session, and I was like, okay, I need to learn how to do this. And then I went on her training. So I did her medicine wheel training twice. And it was great because the first time I was living with this constant skeptical voice in my head that was driving me nuts. And then the second time I was able to relax and just completely trust the experience.
Yeah.
And that was a game changer in terms of discovering other realms, entities, leaving my body, doing the death rites, learning how to help people pass the other side, coming back in, and really having a direct experience of all of this. And so really knowing it from inside out and not having any fear around it anymore, and working with, guides and ritual and all of that. So that was a game changer. And I remember it's really interesting, like each point of the journey is a game changer in a different way. And I was always seeking more. I was never content, which is a paradox of what I just said. And that also drives us. So that needs to be honored too. So I was always, because I remember the shaman I trained with were kind of like thinking that was all you needed. And I was like, well, I don't agree with that. I mean, this is amazing, but I also think the energy psychology is really important too, And so because of the psychological depth of it, that married very well with the shamanic work. And I was like, I really wish somebody would just put shamanic work together with energy psychology and tapping and muscle testing. I mean, surely that would be really cool. And then the next day I got an email through a newsletter announcing that Howard Brockman was coming to the UK to train people, and he was somebody that integrated energy psychology and shamanism. So I was like, holy shit. So I bought his book, I read his book, and I was like, right, I need to train with this guy. So that's how I came to meet Howard Brockman, who's amazing. And he's 70 plus now, probably. So, and I was very blessed in those years because, of course, now with Corona and everything, nobody's going anywhere. But he came for like 5 or 6 years in a row to train us from Oregon. Oh yeah, sorry. The other bit. Tell me if I'm making this story too long. Okay. But it was just really, I just love this story because it actually happened in stages. I got actually, I forgot. No, before I got the newsletter, I Googled energy psychology and shamanism. That's when his book showed up. That's when I bought his book. And that's when I said to the universe, oh, fucking hell, he's in Oregon in the States. Oh, I really wish something like this could happen in the UK. And that's when the next day I got the email with the training. And I was like, that's insane. So I trained with him, and it was great because he came to us, right? And it was a very intimate group of energy psychotherapists training in this. And so that was really the point when I was liberated to find my own way with shamanism. Because before that, it was in the context of the Inca tradition, and it was quite prescriptive, and you have to do it this way and that way, and and it was quite convoluted, and it was quite complicated, and I had to use my body a lot, and it was like, I'm kind of lazy. And in a good sense, I don't mean that as a negative judgment. I just want to do things the easiest possible way.
Of course.
And I was like, I can't be bothered necessarily to lie down and extract all these things from people's bodies. I mean, I can do that, but there must be a more efficient manner. So that's what Howard did. He just sat down, connected with his guides. His guides just did it for him. And I was like, well, that sounds great.
Yeah. So much easier.
I know. So, so that was amazing. And that really allowed me to start integrate everything very seamlessly in a session. The talking therapy side, the energy psychology, the psychotherapy side, the shamanic side. And I just did so much work with that with my clients. And so I just got a lot of case studies, and I got really confident with that work. And and it was mind-blowing. And then each step of the way, new mentors would show up when I would need them. So I learned more about connecting with my higher self. I learned more about how to send activations, how to receive activations. I trained with certain healers that really helped me learn more about the healing side.
And along the way you healed yourself, of course.
Say that again?
Along the way you healed yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Everything was in service of healing myself. My clients were like a little side benefit of, oh yes, and I'll do this with my clients. But really, I wanted to heal myself. And also find the easiest, deepest way to do so, to really get to the root. So the more I healed myself, the more I became more grounded. I have become more grounded, and also the more connected with all sorts of other worlds I have been to. So there's been like this marrying of these two aspects, and it's very interesting how this seeking has led me now to a place where I feel in a different place in relationship to that seeking. So I don't feel like I'm seeking like I was. It's
anymore.
Anymore. There's been a real shift in the last few months, and I don't know whether it's these new earth energies coming in, but I'm almost like going full circle back into just the surrendering and the acceptance and the knowing that it's already as it is, it's already done. I just have to think something and it just happens, and it's that kind of direct connection.
Yeah, I kind of relate to that as well, because I feel like the more I rest, the more I just focus on my own body and feeling good and allowing myself to feel good. You know, that requires allowance, that I'm not pushing myself because I'm being a crazy high achiever, you know, working too much, you know, doing everything too much.
That's amazing.
And need to have like the whole control. So it's like and now I'm kind of turning to a different, it's like nothing feels that, you know, complicated anymore. I don't know, it's the new grounding that you mentioned, you know, I think it's amazing. Even though things are happening, and things are happening constantly, you know, the obstacles and energies, and it's been really challenging year.
Yes.
Many who are sensitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So can we talk a little bit about empaths and sensitive people and, you know, their role in the world?
Yes, definitely. Because I remember when I got sick initially at 17, I had this real feel. I'd read something about canaries in the mines, that those of us who are getting all these kind of autoimmune-like problems were like the canaries in the mines, like alerting the world to things being out of balance. You know, the first ones feeling it, and everybody else still being deep and numb. So instead of us pathologizing ourselves for it, realizing that we had to listen to what our bodies were saying for the sake of everyone. How we've all been out of balance. So I think the sensitives, if we want to talk, I don't think there's sensitive people and non-sensitive people. I think everybody's sensitive. It's just that some people are completely numb to it and haven't unfrozen yet. And those of us who get sick are unfreezing. Because I was numb until the point when I fell apart with pain at 17. I was clearly numb until that point. It's not possible that I hadn't been in pain before. I just didn't know it. You know, it's like I woke up. So waking up involves feeling, often, not necessarily always, but it can, feeling a hell of a lot of pain, whether it's emotional or physical. And that's the wake up. And so for sensitives, they might feel that and look around and think, well, why am I the only one feeling this way? And why is the rest of the world looking like they're fine? Which of course they're not, because we can clearly see this year that nobody is fine, which is a good thing. We have to stop thinking that we're fine. Or thinking we have to be fine, let's put it that way.
People don't know what to say then anymore, you know, what to say, like when somebody's asking, like, how are you? I'm fine. What is it?
Yeah, I don't think I even, like, when people ask me that question now, I'm just like, I'm everything. Like, I don't even have an answer to that. I could give you 1,000 different answers and they're all true.
That's what I mean. We need new words.
We need new words.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think when we're aware of being empathic, when we are feeling all of this, there's lots of things to this. There's often trauma at the root of this that has impacted our ability to have healthy energetic boundaries. So that is something that we get sick because it's our body's way of saying you have to attend to this. And that can take us on a path.
And you mean with that you have to, you know, body needs to interrupt as people wake up and stop to listen and what's going on, right?
And heal the origins of the lack of boundaries, because there's traumas, there's beliefs, there's contracts, there's agreements with people, there's beliefs like, if I don't take on this person's pain, I will no longer be loved. And that kind of version of that is, I usually find in almost everyone I work with in some form. Like there's usually early attachment issues. I don't really know anybody who doesn't have some kind of form of early attachment issues. It's more a question of continuum and of the degree of the severity, I suppose, of the impact and of those relationships. But we all are impacted by early relationships, and that's okay, and that's normal, and that's how it's supposed to be. And And so it's through relationship to other that we learn about ourselves and our patterns and all the ways we have been holding our power back in some way to protect ourselves, to protect others. And so as we're evolving and waking up, there's the part of us that wants to expand, that wants to be free. And there's the parts that want to keep us as we were, because that was our version of safety. And so that's where the energy psychology is crucial, in my opinion, because it knows how to really go in and zoom in and find out and target and know and ask the questions to get in there and really understand what's going on there, because there's usually lots of layers and parts to the puzzle
behind the mind and ego and the conscious, right?
Exactly. And really understanding what's happening unconsciously. And we use this word self-sabotage as if that's a bad thing, but there's always a good intention underneath that. It's really understanding, and this is where the love and acceptance needs to come in to be able to then enable transformation for this part that has been, or parts that have been so terrified. And so those experiences happen at every juncture of expansion and growth. And that's happening collectively, that's happening individually, that's happening in our relationships. And so if we're sensitive, we're feeling all this and often feeling quite overwhelmed because of the amount of information coming into our field, and trying to figure out how to read it, how to map it, how to manage
understand it, you know, in the first place. Yeah,
that's true. Understanding, you're right, is like number one.
Yeah.
And de-shaming.
Yeah.
So there's so much shame around feeling. There's been so much shame around feeling for so long. It's the shame of the feminine, and so what's being liberated right now is the honoring of the feminine, the healing of the toxic feminine as well as the toxic masculine, so that we can come to trust feeling again, not to identify with it, because that's like the ego getting into the story, but to really be curious and loving about what's underneath that, what needs to be honored, what needs to be brought into balance once more. And to be brought into balance, we need to allow ourselves to be out of balance. We need to allow ourselves to be out of control. And that's like the wild feminine. And we have not let her be. We have not let her breathe. And the planet will bring wildness up for us until we are willing to trust that.
Trust that we are letting go, trusting.
To trust the out of control and controlness right now. And I think that's what we're all feeling right now. It's almost like before, some people could afford to somehow not feel that. But now it's like everything that's happened collectively this year has really been a blasting through of all that. And it's like, we're all out of control.
Yeah, for sure. And everybody's out of control. You know, that's why there's so much fear, because everybody's life has been changed, forced to be changed. Everybody's working from home, you know, everything's changed, relationships changed, family dynamics changed, everything is a mess.
Yes, everything is a beautiful mess.
Yes.
So step one is allow the mess, love the mess, understand this is exactly what's supposed to happen. No kind of growth at an individual level has ever happened without being in a mess first. So let's assume the same for the collective. And then really stepping into supporting ourselves through this, like
and
prioritizing.
Can we really talk about that shortly? Because I really love what you said, like shame to feel. You know, shame, it's like it's weakness, right? It's too vulnerable to feel and show the feelings and share the feelings and show our authentic feelings. And we have learned to take these roles and be stronger and more successful and powerful, and of course that's kind of an illusion that we can see in all the relationships, for example, the dynamics. What is causing the problems? So it's like we don't allow ourselves to feel and show our feelings. And of course that is not creating the intimacy and the connection that we all lack.
That we all long for as well.
And crave. And that's what I feel like a lot of people are actually craving, the comfort and the love and the security and safety and certainty. So what kind of advice would you like to give to people so that they can feel more trustful and have faith and allow themselves to be and accept themselves where they are and be those observers and understand that the obstacles are not a bad thing, the feelings are not a bad thing, like some kind of an empowerment. I feel like people are craving this kind of an empowerment, guidance. What do I do that I can feel good about myself in any situation? And everything is a beautiful.
Falling apart.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, just listening to this interview, there will have been transmissions coming through energetically. So actually just, first of all, allowing themselves to receive what we just said. There's a lot less doing that we need to do these days.
I love that so much.
So just allowing, giving permission to receive. Actually, right now, I would just invite people. And taking care of our nervous systems with love. So grounding. And we could do a quick thing now. So you mentioned that you found the Wayne Cook posture really helpful.
Yeah, I laugh to the name of it because I think it's so
I know, it's some guy named Wayne Cook that invented it.
Obviously. Let's do Cook.
So if people are watching the video, this is easy. Did you say people are also going to be listening to an audio?
Yes.
So you're just going to have to figure this out, audio listening people.
Yeah. That's
so
all right.
Let's start by crossing the right foot over the left ankle. When you're sitting, you can totally do this sitting.
So this is an energy grounding method that is helping to feel more grounded, feel more calm. And this is something that actually helped me like last year when I started working with you, and I had a full anxiety attacks like almost daily. And I felt like I'm all over the place and my head is like open and all kind of a shit is coming in. Like I can't control that. So that's why one of the reasons I invited you to talk with me, because I want to share this method because they were able to help me so much.
Great. Thank you for saying that. Yes, absolutely. So let's experience it. There's a lot of crossing over in this exercise because we want the energies to cross over on the body. I learned this from Donna Eden. Donna Eden popularized this exercise in her videos that she has online. So if you start, you don't have to start with right over left, but just for the purposes of instructing. Right foot over left ankle as you're sitting, and then you put your arms out in front of you with your palms facing down, more or less at throat level-ish, chest level. And then we're going to cross with the left hand over the right, and then let the palms turn and face each other, cross the fingers, and then tuck those hands in. And it might feel a bit awkward. And just resting on the chest if that feels okay. And if this is too hard for anyone to do, I'll show something else in a minute that's easier to do. Just resting here for a moment. You can keep your eyes open or closed as you wish, and just breathe with your hand on your chest. This is balancing meridians in your body, helping the energy to ground. This is really good to do before performance or before public speaking, before a challenging situation that you have to go into where you want to feel grounded in your own energy.
And for the yogis who are listening to this is very similar to eagle pose or Garudasana pose. Actually, you know this, Sabrina?
I don't.
Yeah, so that's a standing pose. So that's a really balancing pose, and it's a wonderful pose. So it's very similar because we cross our legs and hands in the same way, and it's a calming pose.
I love that. A lot of these exercises are, they fall under the energy medicine umbrella, and they cross over many different traditions and cultures.
Yeah.
We find these everywhere, which tells you that there's a very deep undercurrent of wisdom in this that looks so simple, and sometimes we don't do the simple things. We really want to look for very complicated things. Okay, Then we can unravel the hands, and we're going to repeat on the other side with the other side. So left foot over right, left ankle over right, and then back with the arms out with the right hand over the left, letting the palms meet, fingers crossed, tuck in. Breathe. So it doesn't matter which side you start with. The main point is that the legs and hands are crossed in opposite manner. So when the left foot is crossed over the right hand is crossed over the left. And vice versa. And then a really nice way to finish this after you unravel, this is what Donna Eden does, is you can put your hands in a steeple with your fingers tips touching each other, and with your thumbs on your third eye point in between your two physical eyes. If you're able to hold that, just hold and rest the shoulders and breathe.
This helps. Fingertips together, palms are facing each other. There's a little bit of space in between the palms, and palms are touching the third eye.
Thank you, Danny.
I've been teaching yoga, so maybe that's why I know how to explain this.
Yeah, you're very good at explaining what the body's doing. Amazing. And if you feel like there's a specific chakra that needs help, you can go to that. So you could touch, either touch the body or be opposite the body, opposite the throat or the heart. And this exercise, when I learned about Phil Mullen, I learned about axiotonal lines, which is a whole other topic, which is probably too complicated to explain right now. But they're not meridians, but they're like meridians, but they are the counterpart of the meridians in the parallel self. This is where things get very esoteric. And they cross through when you let your hands be in this position. So there's a deep rebalancing that's happening just by having hands like this, without even worrying about the chakras. Then if you're on the chakras as well, there's more happening. And the point is just experiment with this. Like, don't try and understand it with your mind. Just do it and see how it feels in different parts of your body.
Yeah, I think that too is very interesting and so important for people, especially women, to start understanding their bodies even more, and the messages and what they need, and explore and experience and allow to feel like what's going on in the body, and not just the pain and the hormones and what's going on in our bodies, like on physical level, but also energetically. Like, and many people are actually able to recognize, like, I have tension in my belly, and there's something in my throat, something blocking.
Yes, indeed. I want to show another hookup, which is a simpler one, which is a really good thing to have in your toolbox, if nothing else. One finger, third finger, I was taught, but I don't know if it really matters, but third finger in the belly button, and then the other one here in that third eye point, and you just hook in and up. So it's like you're gently pulling upwards. And holding it until you have a sigh or a yawn or a burp or a feeling of relaxation. And if you have none of these, don't worry.
Yeah, I remember that this was really powerful for me. I use it in the bed when I went to sleep if I felt restless or anxious. Just able to, because when you touch your body, you immediately can calm yourself down. It's like you're safe, you're anchoring yourself.
Yes.
I was just speaking and keeping my fingers there. So,
what this is doing is it's connecting two meridians, one that goes up the front and the other up the back, the central and the governing meridian, which actually form a loop through your pelvic floor and around the head. And that easily gets interrupted just by daily life stress, or not feeling grounded or not being grounded. So when we hold these points, it's like you're reconnecting this, and the energy can flow and go into the earth. So it's an earthing exercise. It's like you're earthing your energy machine. And I would recommend doing this several times a day, starting the day with this, like I said, before bed, when you're around people where you feel like you take on their energies. It really helps to protect your aura. So these are there's so many things like this, energy medicine tools. Donna Eden, I mentioned, is someone who popularized a lot of these things wonderfully on YouTube. And there's many more. These are like a self-care toolkit to help our energy bodies manage life, manage change. So it's like a self-regulation tool. And I would say that's like crucial. Number one is to have some form of self-regulation support. And in parallel to that, so it's not either or, it's not one before the other, it's in parallel. One can also find other ways to start healing and releasing traumas and blocks that are coming up in response to things happening. Because they're coming up for a reason. They're coming up because they want to be released, because that's the old reality, and your body doesn't want to hold on to that stuff anymore. So if you're feeling overwhelmed emotionally or physically, try and remember that this is your body's way of letting you know. It's like the blocked pipe example. If a pipe is blocked, symptoms happen in your home.
Yeah.
And it's there to tell you, oh, look, a pipe is blocked. Simple as that. And so to trust the signals from our body and be like, oh, okay, something wants to be released. And then finding a method that works for you for that. In my experience, the method isn't as important as honoring the what that wants healing, and then finding what works.
Yeah.
And there's, many things out there that work.
Beautiful. I love this. And, it's super helpful for find this kind of a toolkit and start trying and testing what helps. Because so many of my clients say like, I'm picking up other people's energy, and, I don't know how to protect myself. And people are becoming more sensitive because they are waking up. We are all waking up. The whole world is waking up. So thank you for sharing. I think these are very, very helpful, and understanding the body more. So like understanding the energies and respecting and appreciating the beautiful temple of ours, right?
Indeed.
How wonderful it is. Like, it's like,
it's very clever. It's very intelligent. Yeah. Like everything in nature is very intelligent, how it's been designed.
Yeah.
And so learning to use that intelligence and knowing that is inside you. Like seek out people to help you, absolutely, and guide you, so you don't have to be on your own. But also, it's all inside you. It's like, and if you like the idea of shamanic work and working with helpers, that's like a really fast way to get help. So you can, so if people are saying, oh my God, how do I heal and release these traumas? She said this, and now what do I do? Okay, well, you can ask the dragons to show up. If you like working with dragons, that's what I do. And just be like, dragons, just burn the stuff away. It's that simple. You can learn to connect with your higher self and ask your higher self and source to do that. If you connect with certain animals, you can ask them to show up and clear this for you.
Yeah.
And ask for it to be cleared at every possible dimensional level of your being, just to make sure you cover all bases.
Yeah. I really love that. I've been recently using the magnets. I'm kind of visualizing the magnets around me that are sucking out all the energy, that is not mine or not needed. So that's been really helpful and
fantastic.
Super fast.
Yeah. Things are getting faster. Things are getting easier. Yeah. We are also being showered with energies from other dimensions that are here to help us ascend as a planet, to make all this easier. Our DNA is being cleared and upgraded, very much so at the moment. And so allowing yourself to give permission to the true light, to beings of 100% true light to support you, and for this light to come in, so that can happen. It is easier now than it ever has been.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your story and everything. I think it was beautiful, wonderful, so helpful interview, and it's lovely to share this knowledge of yours. So thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me, and your presence and your questions and your intuition, and creating such a safe, loving space. My clients are very lucky to have you in their world.
Like yours. And, big hug. Love you.
Big hug. Big hug to everybody watching.
Yeah. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening. So I will share Sabrina's information below this interview, so you can connect Sabrina and talk with her, ask any questions if you have anything in your mind. So she's happy to help, I'm sure.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.